Who really cares what's real, what's fake? We together are people of the same struggle. I give up the rhymes, the beats, the breaks, to see us all rise from the same gutter. Who really cares what's real, what's fake? We together are people of the same struggle. I give up the rhymes, the beats, the breaks, to see us all rise from the same gutter. Look into her eyes, surprised at what I behold. The windows to her soldiers could not close, no control emotions.
I came to California from South Korea 15 years ago when I was 11, knowing nothing more than the fact that Britney Spears lived here. Since then, I've graduated from UCLA, one of the best universities in the world. I have a dream job working as an economic mobility reporter here at the Sacramento Bee. I'm an embodiment of the California dream. But I've also seen how dreams can shatter. I've worked as an Uber driver, carrying on passengers in my white Toyota Matrix as my car sped along homeless encampments and overcrowded apartments. What has gone right? And what has gone wrong for so many Californians? Why has California, the world of billion-dollar startups, becoming so unequal every day? We wanted to highlight some of the efforts that are underway to help Californians get out of poverty and get into the dream jobs. But first, let's start with the most simple, basic question. What factors lead to poverty in your mind?
Poverty is, in its simplest definition, is essentially a lack of cash, not a lack of character. Throughout the gauntlet of policies, there are structural factors that make it very difficult for someone who's born in poverty to break the cycle of poverty. And we also know California's poverty is regionalized, that we have entire regions in this state that are poverty regions. And in Stockton and Coachella and Bakersfield and San Bernardino, you have Inland Empire, you have entire communities where the poverty rate's a quarter of people and above, which is a complete failure given all the wealth that's generated here.
How does poverty manifest itself? We spoke with several California workers, including Omar Yakubi, a freelance software designer who was also putting in a 12-hour workday driving for Uber when he found himself without a stable gig. Ray Justo is a Sacramento resident who had lost his job at the beginning of the pandemic. By fall, he and his family of 6 were living between a Honda Pilot and his in-laws' living room.
What poverty means to me is being in a situation to where you're working as much as you can, but you can barely cover your bills. You can't have a savings. You can't invest in your future. You can't move on with your life if you can't save a penny, you know?
I think everyone's after that hustle. And I think in America, that is mostly what is required, is that stamina and perseverance. And not everyone has that. There's the sense that people and jobs are disposable. And that's creating a lot of harm, not just to the people who are fired, but also for those of us who have to consume the services. Because in these companies that work on really complex things, there's not a lot of institutional knowledge anymore.
There's not enough quality jobs out there. So how do we also work together with industry to uplift, to lift up job quality within industries? And part of that is recognizing the value that workers bring to the table. We have, low wage sectors. Doesn't mean that they're low skill. It means maybe they're undervalued, right? Or maybe competition has led to a low road in terms of job quality.
As we saw with the pandemic, the workers that were hit hardest and hit early were those that are most vulnerable. Women, immigrants, low-income workers, people of color. And what was really clear to us during the pandemic was something we understood before, that too many workers are living on the margins. We have too many people who are just getting by.
Ray had worked as a lead installer for fireplaces, making $20 an hour before he lost that job.
The job itself was really risky. I'm sitting there on the edge of every roof trying to install things. So, life was pretty rough.
Pandora Crowder, who lives in Stockton, didn't work for 13 years after losing a job at a trucking company.
You have to jump through a lot of hoops in order just to be able to maintain. And even then, I wasn't maintaining. I moved to Stockton from Vancouver, Washington, back in 2012. We moved here because we had become homeless for a second time, and we really didn't have anywhere to go. So we had an opportunity to move here.
Fast forward to today, however, Wei and Pandora have found jobs that they love. What worked?
So now I work at Zenify as a Salesforce administrator. I got my certification with them.
Through the City of Sacramento's digital upskill program, Wei spent 3 months being trained to become a software developer. He was given free training as well as support for things like books and childcare. That led to his job at Zenify.
There was some funding available from the CARES Act, and working with organizations like Merit America and the Sacramento Urban League, really they surfaced opportunities for candidates that wanted to pursue, a technical track, and maybe there were candidates that ordinarily wouldn't have had opportunities, and so now this training was available to them kind of free of charge, and so these were go-getter type people, and they jumped on it and they went for it.
I was living in poverty before this program, before this job. I don't focus so much more on, how much overtime can I work to make sure that I can, cover this bill or, cover expenses. It's now focused on, okay, let me just do a great job of what I do and the money will follow. It's a remarkable feeling.
For Pandora, it was the feeling of empowerment.
2016, I got pulled out of my comfort zone and became the president of the resident council for Conway Homes. Had never done anything like that before in my life. And that opportunity took me into feeling comfortable enough to become employed again and trying to re-enter the world. It gave me the confidence that I could do it again. And Reinvent Stockton had reached out to me. A new position had opened up, and I jumped on it. I applied, and I am now a full-time employee with the Reinvent Stockton Foundation, and I have been for a year and 3 months.
Still, the success of Wei and Pandora can look like two tiny dots in a state of 40 million people, including 50 million who live in or near poverty. When I started this project months ago, I was thinking about how to replicate the success of Wei and Pandora. How do you give them good jobs? How can you train them to get the jobs that they want? But when I started talking further with Wei, Pandora, and others, I realized I may have been asking the wrong question.
The issue isn't that people in poverty aren't working. Like, we have a term for it. We call it the working poor. The vast majority of people in this state that can work do work. But job training in and of itself can't be a solution to poverty, because we have poverty jobs, and these jobs pay poverty wages. So until we do something about wages and until we do something about the floor, then all the other stuff will continue to be piecemeal and pick-me efforts that are designed to solve a problem that isn't the actual problem we're solving, which is the issue of poverty, which is the issue of lack of cash.
For Wei, it wasn't just the City of Sacramento paying for his training, but childcare and other things he needs so he's not forced to take another low-paying job to pay his bill. For Pandora, it was getting help with her rent. She lives in public housing where her income is tied to her rent, which means more she works, the more she has to pay in rent, unless...
Jobs Plus is a program for Conway Homes Housing Authority residents. We're actually a resource employment center here. We offer services to them. Their benefit of being in Jobs Plus is that they get a rent incentive. So for the next 3 to 4 years, they will not have that rent increase. We're hoping that after the end of the 4 years, with that money they're saving by the rent not increasing, they use that money to help clear up their credit, maybe look for buying a home. Pandora's a perfect example. She just bought a car, and now she's trying to save money so she can buy a house at the end of the program.
And it's about trusting, not forcing people like Pandora to take the right step.
There's a lot of people out there who don't have support, who don't have a family, who don't have a husband, a brother, a sister. Some don't have friends to depend on or ask questions or get ideas or see somebody living differently than you to make you want to do that change or make that change. You don't have to buy into Jobs Plus. I'm not making you do anything. This is all an opportunity that you could choose to take at any time. And I think holding their hand, if that's what you want to call it, or being there for them, or sharing stories with them, or being empathetic to their lives and what they deal with, I think will help.
It's also about businesses and organizations to take a chance on people like Ray and Pandora, who may not have a 4-year degree or years of experience.
I think companies have been cutting training. They've been expecting workers to come in the door knowing everything about the job. A lot of job descriptions are written that way. And I think that's been a cost-cutting measure. And that's not how society was ever supposed to work. I was reading a speech by Abraham Lincoln that was explaining that the just and prosperous way for all was for the person with knowledge to train up the person below him and teach him how to do the job. And that just kind of blew me away, because that's been missing, and that's this big question, and that's why we're sitting here talking about this.
The core DNA of the company from a values perspective has to embrace, right, embrace diversity, embrace that people of these different backgrounds will actually make your company better. It'll make your company stronger. And if you believe that to the core, then you'll take the initiative. Oftentimes people say, well, we don't have diversity in our company because that's not who's applying. And that just doesn't cut it. You got to kind of go a level deeper. It's a big deal for a Salesforce or a VSP or a Zenify to make an impact in the economy. We're not just here to make money, right? We're here to create jobs, make an impact. What do we stand for beyond the products and services we may sell?
We've had hundreds of years of policymaking view based off the perceived and often racialized deficits of people. We have 0 years of policy that's informed with looking at people as assets.
I had everything thrown at me, between losing my job, losing our house, living in a car, living on a living room floor. All that would stop many people, but it's those that just keep moving forward in those moments. Those are the people that'll make the difference.
So, where do we go from here? For every success story like Ray and Pandora, there have been dozens of people guiding them.
A lot of them have closed down to things, to change in general. I mean, if they've been living a certain way for a long period of time, we know that they don't see a difference. But I think when you share stories with them, they know somebody else did it, then they are able to see that they can do it.
The issue with poverty is not with people in poverty, because so much of our political discourse and our policies have been based off of belief that those in poverty are the problem. And that leads to a certain set of solutions. Like, let's give them parenting classes. Let's give them training. Let's give them literacy. But if you actually truly believe that poverty is a policy choice and a policy failure, then that leads to a different set of solutions that puts the onus on the institutions, that puts the onus on society, that puts the onus on all of us